It's David Ducker coming back at you, and today we're going to be talking about basic transhumanism. Transhumanism is the evolution of mankind. It is going beyond the human form and frame and function. It is the continuing process of improving the human genome and structure. So the most basic level, the level that I would use in my space opera setting, the level I do use in my space opera setting, is to go with gravity, to go into the high gravity environments where you're pressed down, where you're compressed over generations, and you end up with heavy G humans. You end up with squats from Warhammer 40K. Call them what you know, what you will. Know them as you like. But always interesting to see the squats rolling around, low to the ground, not moving very fast, not used to jumping or leaving their feet. Very much like fantasy dwarfs in that, or fantasy, Khazalid, Dvergar, whatever you want to call them. And of course, I've got my own video on fantasy dwarfs as well. But you can have this in a sci-fi setting. These stocky, muscle-bound individuals with thick, dense bones who are uncomfortable, with acrobatics. So they are very sturdy, solid, but not very fast, not very agile. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be dexterous with their hands. I know a lot of rule sets conflate the two and say, oh, hand-eye coordination and finger dexterity is exactly the same as acrobatics and bodily agility. I encourage you not to play those RPGs because you're just going to lose so much detail and depth. So that's one way to go with it. Heavy G-worlders. Throw some of these individuals in. And of course you can think, when you're moving in a heavy G environment, when you move slowly, deliberately, when you don't want to fall, when you're unable to jump because of the gravity, that will affect your psychology as well. Your mind will work in a slow, plodding manner. You'll prefer safety over risks, and so on. Now, the other end of the spectrum is the low G worlders, the Voidborn, those who are on small planets or planetoids like Mars, like the Moon, those who spend a lot of time in zero G. And of course, they would naturally begin to extend and distend. They would get taller, thinner. Their bones would become less dense. But they might become more agile and acrobatic because they're used to being able to make these great leaps, spinning in midair, doing corkscrews, backflips, front flips, whatever it may be, cartwheels and round-offs. I mean, in regular gravity, these can be difficult for people. It's not always the most efficient way to move around. But in a low G environment, when a fall is not very dangerous and when a jump is very easy, these things might become more a part of everyday life. And certainly in zero G on a spaceship, maneuvering in 3 dimensions becomes very, very important. And just as we've extrapolated the psychology of the squats and that their minds become slow and plodding, you can think that the Voidborn, their minds, they might advance to be very quick, to be very intuitive, to need to catch things on the fly, to see things in 3 dimensions, to be willing to take these risks and figure it out on the way down, take a leap of faith, because falling isn't as dangerous in their environment. Again, this is a big extrapolation, but it's one that you can make, and it adds a lot of flavor and fluff into the game. So I wanted to mention those 2 possibilities for basic transhumanism based on gravity. That's pretty much all I do with transhumanism, but there's so much that you can do. I just haven't studied it very extensively, but I mean, you can do things like expanding your lifespan, regenerating lost limbs, having gills, for an aquatic planet, perhaps, having different radiation tolerances, different lung capacities to breathe in different environments. Saltwater filters to drink salt water. As many sea mammals do today. Why can't we adapt that into humanity rather than just huge manatees, if you'll pardon the pun? Vision, scent, sound, all of these things, echolocation, just modifying the human genetic code and structure. There's so much that you can do with it in a space opera, in a sci-fi, in a cyberpunk setting. So I just wanted to start at the basic level. Maybe I'll do some other videos on gene mods in the future, on changing your genetic structure, on breeding new varieties of Homo sapien. But I just wanted to start with the two and remind you that the human form can change, and it will change in the future based on what it's exposed to over generations. So don't forget to incorporate that and add some flavor into your game. You don't need aliens to explore other biomorphs necessarily. So let me know in the comments below what you think of transhumanism, how you do it, what you think of the squats and the voidborn, the high G worlders and the low G worlders, with that dichotomy, because I love to hear your comments. And until I see you again, good day and good gaming.